Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. And the ghosts do want you dead. But you needn't fear. It is very low on their list of priorities. Ghosts have many more pressing concerns. They don't need to take steps to cause you to become dead. Ghosts are patient. They have all the time in the world. They don't have to lift a single spectral finger to hasten your demise. Because, by their measure of time, you and all of us will be joining them shortly. Hello, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Rebecca.
Why
That
are
was
you
really
making
good.
that face at me?
It was good. I was like, "I like your Victoria Winters." Ooh. It made me happy. We are remote today, guys.
We have had a difficult time staying motivated this week. Me, like in all regards, I am
Oh, me too.
neglecting other areas of my life as well.
Our
For
executive
example,
dysfunction collectively has been a challenge.
even before we were supposed to record on Friday, I had planned on having a story time for you all about mid-century pills because
Ooh.
we have talked
I
about
do
that
love
a fair
talking
amount.
about the
And I started some
drugs.
preliminary research into what pills it is that Liz is probably taking and passing out like candy. And because we had discussed if that might be a Quaalude, and it might, but it is more likely Milltown.
What was
But
Milltown?
we will talk about it in detail later once I have done more research. But
Okay. Well,
uh,
but I wanna know.
it is another sedative drug that was marketed in the 50s.
It's one I've never heard of.
Well, you'll hear about it probably next week. Anyhow, even prior to when we were supposed to record on Friday, I had already fallen derelict in my duties and didn't finish my notes about pills. And then on Friday, we could only make it through about 2.5 episodes of the show, and then we both got really sleepy. Something I had intended to ask you about on Friday when we recorded, but didn't. Do you have any news about the big scary tree collapse in your backyard?
So, no, like, nothing has happened.
Well,
Um,
tell the people about how a big scary tree collapsed in your yard.
well, there was a big, beautiful dead tree in my neighbor's yard, and it overlooked my backyard. It is one of my favorite big old dead trees. Crows would come and sit and talk to me at it, and I had a family of Mississippi kites that would come and perch on it and squawk at me, and I just generally woodpeckers, like, I loved that tree, but I knew that it was a ticking time bomb, but I don't own, I rent, and so it really never bothered me, and it wasn't even a super gusty night, like, it's been a little windy here,
That's what puzzled me. I
but it
didn't
was
think there
not
were
like I
storms or
mean
anything.
yeah, it was not a strong storm. I don't really think it took much. I think just it was kind of like a little poof and down it went, but I slept through it. Like I didn't hear a big collapse. So I let my dog, Naja, who is a 120-pound Anatolian Pyrenees mix, and I let her out to potty like normal. So I just like sent her out to the yard and went back to make my coffee and then went to follow her out and have my little morning routine. And I sit and enjoy that every morning, usually for a few minutes before I start my day. But when I went out, the tree had smashed like a good chunk of my fence and one of my garden beds and my little bean house. Well, actually, the bean house got crushed later when the neighbors did come and kind of sawed at it a little bit with chainsaws, but they didn't get very far. And it's all just in my yard. And the dog had gotten out, and I had to go wrangle her, and I hadn't had my coffee, and it was a to do. My landlords are hopefully, they're in. My landlords are great, actually. Like fuck most landlords, but my landlords are nice people and they are in communication with the neighbor and it's a whole thing. I don't know when it's gonna get fixed. After the first day when they just got it out of the street, I haven't heard anything from them and they haven't bothered with it. So I hope that I get my backyard back and I can plant, I still have some garden beds I can plant in, but I also just how have a big gaping hole in the fence and no privacy.
Well, I'm sorry. Continuing with the theme of shirking our duties this week,
Sure.
if you notice considerably more ums and ahs and breaths and filler words this go round, it's because we're recording this at 11 o'clock on Sunday night and I have to have it uploaded by 2 o'clock.
Well,
And
you're always
so I
wanting.
have minimal time for editing.
Well, we're always talking about forming those parasocial relationships, so we are sharing some vulnerability with you guys. We don't have it in us to do much more than the bare minimum. But I think that's probably, you know, kind of across the board for a lot of us, I'd imagine right now.
If we had been on the ball this week, I would have encouraged you to turn your old, dead, scary, collapsing tree story into a spooky "My name is Victoria Winters" story.
Oh, well, do
Uh,
you want to mess with how you'd have to edit it if I did one now real quick?
no, we don't
Okay.
have time for all that, but it would have been cute. Anyway, speaking of Victoria Winters, I wonder what she's up to. In episode 113, Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood is creepy and murdering Matthew is hiding at the old house. We again, from the last episode, see Matthew creeping into the old house with his little hermit lantern,
Ye-
but this time we follow him inside.
He opens up a secret door and closes himself up in it.
It's behind the bookshelf.
Yes.
And he sits in his little creepy dungeon and looks creepy to a
Yeah.
suspenseful orchestral sting. Opening credits. After an exterior shot of the Collinsport Inn, letting us know where we are, where I thought it looked way smaller than normal and a bit like a Texas Chainsaw gas station. Like, it didn't look like the facade of the hotel we normally see. But anyway,
I don't remember, maybe post a picture.
yeah, I'll go back and do that. We see Burke lounging in his room until
Mrs. Johnson is at the door of Burke's room, and she comes to dish all the news. She's come to tell him it wasn't Uncle Roger, but actually Matthew who murdered Vicky. No, no, nobody murdered Vicky. Um,
yet.
dun, dun, dun. He might by the end of all this. Anyway, yeah. So she's excited to tell him the news and dish that Roger didn't kill Bill, but it was actually Matthew who killed Bill and harassed Vicky. Burke is
Burke is real
shocked
disappointed.
and disappointed, and he was certain it was Roger. And he's like, "Damn it." But yeah, he says that he is certain that he had killed Bill as he was that he had done the manslaughtering. And
Mrs.
Mrs.
Johnson.
Johnson is like, "Well, could you also have been wrong about that? You were drunk." And he shoots her a kind of dirty look like, "Bitch."
Although, I mean, she is correct.
Yeah, like
To doubt. But he assures her that that isn't the case, and she agrees to stay on at Collinwood, even though she knows who killed Bill now, which was the whole purpose of going to work there.
well, and she sort of gives a thinly veiled plot device of like, well, but also Roger is a dick, and maybe it is his fault because he didn't cop to the manslaughtering that maybe he didn't do because you were drunk.
Later, Burke is pouring a drink in the kitchen when David knocks at his door. David is also disappointed that Roger seems to be innocent in this instance, so they're commiserating about that. And Burke asks why David hates Roger so much. David says it's because he was mean enough to his mom that it drove her crazy and she had to go to the hospital. And then the subject turns to the whole cursed cliff jumping Collins ladies thing, and David is worried that Vicky might be next. And Burke asks, well, doesn't the lady that jumps off the cliff have to be a Collins? To which David replies, well, Vicky could be for all we
She
know.
doesn't even know, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a nice, nod that even David's picking up on the fact that, like, why would Aunt Liz just hire this strange woman
Well,
with a
oh,
mysterious past?
side note, I can't remember where I read it, so apologies for not citing my source, but I read somewhere recently that they were actually planning on resolving the mystery of Vicky's parentage on the show,
Oh, yeah?
but then she quit.
Oh, yeah. So they just kill her off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know exactly what happens. I think I do, but we'll talk
We'll
about
leave
that
it
when
for
we get to it.
later, yeah.
I haven't made it quite that far, dear listeners. I don't know if you recall, but when we initially started the podcast, I got a little too enthusiastic and watched like 350 episodes in the course of 2 weeks or something because I am mentally ill. And then I fell off. So like I haven't gone beyond those 350. I'm just rewatching all of these with Rebecca now. The point being that as far ahead as I have watched, I haven't made it to when Vicky is first recast and then written off. So we'll see what happens 2 or 3 years from now when we get to that point. Still back at Burke's, David also mentions that he happened to see Mrs. Johnson leaving as he was coming into the hotel, and he suspects that she was there to see Burke, but Burke deflects, and I'm sure I don't know what you mean. Certainly not.
But he's pretty certain about it, yeah.
Back at Collinwood, Mrs. Johnson is snooping slash cleaning in the drawing room. She has a feather duster, but is mostly just rifling through drawers. And David returns. Mrs. Johnson scolds him to hang up his coat, and it is revealed that there has, in fact, been a coat rack next to the front door this whole time, and these rich people are slobs, which, in a fun coincidence, it was pointed out to us on Instagram after our discussion about don't these rich people have some place to put their coats other than just on surfaces in the foyer. Cecilia pointed out to us on Instagram that the coat closet is to the left, just inside the door. So I thought that was fun. And good looking out, Cecilia.
Thanks, friend. It was fun that it was at the same time that we finally noticed it.
Anyhow, David also confronts Mrs. Johnson about seeing her in town and thinking that she had been to see Burke, and he's on to her.
Yeah.
He
But in
starts
a very, like, "I'm not mad at you. I want you to snoop on my shitty dad. I wanna be friends. Let's be ghost friends."
Speaking of ghosts, he starts to go chat with the ghosts at the old house, and Mrs. Johnson doesn't try and dissuade him, so she is the most encouraging of his ghost hobby. Over at the old house, David is talking to the painting of Josette, asking for proof that Roger did the murdery. I can't talk either. I can't do fucking anything this week. David talks to the painting of Josette, asking for proof that Roger did the murdering and the phantom menacing.
He also asks for a sign of where Matthew is,
To
and
which Matthew
then
sneaks up behind him and grabs him. David tells Matthew that he wants to help him because he knows that Roger really killed Bill, and so Matthew should hide here at the old house and help him look for evidence that Roger really did it. And he begs Matthew to stay and help him, and promises to keep him like a good little pet psychopath and bring him food and water and things from the main house. And Matthew eventually agrees. End credits.
episode 114. Victoria Winters says, "Good morning," and that she feels safe right now, but also it's awkward with Roger and also still a little spooky. She offers Roger coffee and he tells her not to be overly solicitous. Uh, she just wants him to forgive her, and he's being pretty pouty and dramatic about it and like, "No, you thought I was a murderer. I'm not gonna be your friend." And
And you
then she
being overly
receives
nice isn't going
yeah.
to change anything, and yeah.
Yeah, she, receives a phone call that Roger answers, and he hands it to her. It's Burke, and he wants her to come see him right away. She's hesitant but agrees, and then Roger says after the call, "What did Burke want? You didn't think I would recognize his voice."
Which
Uh
was funny because Rebecca and I both didn't, and we thought it was Frank at
Yeah, we both
first.
thought it was baby boy Garner calling, and then yeah, so
Anyway, Roger declares Vicky his enemy before the opening
yeah, he's
credits,
being prissy and pretentious about it, and he's mad that Vicky's gonna go see Burke and tells her she's chosen to see him. If she chooses to see him, she's choosing to be his enemy. And Vicky's like, "Okay then."
Vicky arrives at the inn, and Burke smiles at the knock on the door and lets her in. He was worried about her, and she explains what had happened. Vicky sets him straight about his fantasy of Roger being guilty, and he admits that he is disappointed. They flirt, and Burke continues to try and put words in her mouth.
Yep,
He's trying to drag her into his mess, and she isn't interested, and tells him as much, and she says she doesn't think that they should see any more of each other. And then she starts to leave, but he grabs her by the face and kisses her.
yep, it was pretty hot.
He apologizes afterward, and she says, "Well, that doesn't change anything. I still don't want anything to do with you."
He's heard and
Mm.
says, "All right, little governess, you know where the door is," and gets shitty because you know, when men don't get what they want, they, are mean.
After she's gone, Burke receives a call from Blair, and it's good news. So at Collinwood in the drawing room, Liz asks Roger why he's playing hooky from work, and David is trying to sneak out, but Liz catches him and sends him back up to do his schoolwork. But as David often does, he immediately creeps right back down the stairs to eavesdrop on Liz and Roger arguing about Vicky.
Also,
Um,
Roger was wearing some big old glasses that I don't know that we've seen him in very often, or maybe I've just now noticed them, but
I
he
didn't
he was
notice
wearing
this
some
time.
big old framed glasses and, like, reading the paper, and it just looked very like, "I'm reading the paper with my big glasses." It was funny to me.
Well, after David sneaks into the kitchen, the phone rings and Liz answers. It is Burke calling to let her know that he officially is the owner of the Logansport fish business.
Fish business,
If we ever have
fish.
if we ever have merch, I want you to draw a little picture of like fish with ties on around a conference room table, and we call it fish business. I want
Fish
us
business
to
and
have a fish
manslaughter club
business cert, yes.
and
But before we do any of that, remember that logo you were going to make us
yeah, I mean,
since
this is not the week to
September?
ask me. Yes, fish business, manslaughter club, an actual portrait of Matthew and I. All these are things are on the list.
I can't remember if I included it in the last episode, but I also forgot to put selfies of us on the Instagram to be like, please tell us we don't look as old as we are in relation to these people on this
Oh,
show,
yeah.
on
Well,
account of Matthew being younger than us.
yeah.
Speaking of
Something.
Matthew, David is in the kitchen packing a bag of provisions for him. Back in the drawing room, Roger tries to talk Liz into selling the cannery, and she calls him a coward, and David listens a little bit more before creeping out the front door
He goes to the old house.
to drop off Matthew's groceries, or should I say, to feed his pet Psycho.
Yeah, I had a joke in here somewhere about that. We had the same mind, but
We often do.
I can't remember what I said because I
Well,
can't remember anything. So it'll be a surprise when I get to it. We might have even already skimmed over it.
back in the drawing room, Liz is making a last ditch effort to outbid Burke on the fish business, but it's a no. Roger is really flustered by this, so he flubs many lines in a row. I didn't note an instance, but I remember being like, wow, he's really messing up. Vicky returns, and Roger calls her in to ask what Burke wanted. Roger also tells her about fish business, and she explains that she told Burke that she won't see him any longer. Roger and Liz are pleased, so Vicky heads up to check on David in order to try and prevent Liz from spending money trying to fight Burke. Roger vaguely threatens her, like, think of Carolyn and David. And are you
Yeah.
trying to spend all their inheritance just so you can win a fight? And
Yeah, no, he's pulling out the stops and she's not having it and they fight a bunch more.
I was just going to say, Vicky interrupts, announcing that David isn't upstairs, and Liz is concerned, but Roger could not care less. Like, who
And
gives a fuck?
essentially says it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I forget what he says, but he's like, "I don't give a fuck. We have more important things," because he's
That's
wanting to
kind of a
keep
theme.
fighting.
Every time anybody is wondering where David is, Roger is always like, who cares so long as he's not here? Well, where David is leaving the old house, and he goes back to the main house and lies to Liz about his whereabouts. This would have been a good point for you to make the pet joke, because I think he lies and says he was out feeding the birds or
Yeah,
something.
I wrote to feed the birds. I'm still not finding it. Maybe I thought it in my head.
No worries. David asks Roger if there's any news of Matthew, but there is not. End credits. Before we start this one, I will say, in yet another shirking of our duties, we also didn't watch 5 episodes of the show this week. We only watched 3. And I did consider deceiving you, dear listeners, and saying that it was part of my grand scheme to get our episode numbers back on track. And it wasn't. It's just we didn't have the time. But also, it does serve that function. So, 115 will be the last episode we discuss this week, but then next week we'll be back to 116 through 20. So, happy accident. Please forgive us. Anyhow,
Now, Matthew can stop stressing out about the numbers
for now,
for
they
now.
skip another one in like 3 weeks. So, and I can't stop stressing out about it because I keep a Google Calendar that tells us what episode numbers are going to be discussed each week, and it's filled out months in advance, and I just recently filled it out months in advance, assuming we stuck to 5 episodes a
Oh
week, and,
gosh, yeah.
I had a plan to get us back to the correct numbers, like, 2 months from now, but now I have to go and edit all those months of
Oh
episode
no.
numbers that will now be wrong, so which will be the second time I have had to do that. At any rate, episode 115.
Victoria Winters tells us she has had a mysterious past. Matthew tried to kill her, and David is harboring fugitives. Just another day in Collinsport.
We see David delivering provisions to Matthew at the old house. Matthew sneaks up behind him and grabs him to scare him on purpose, all in good fun, but boy is he creepy. Opening credits.
Yeah, he's a creeper and he's been what a creep. Like creep, creep, creep. Ugh.
In
His
the for
eyebrows are like very pronounced, like they do a good job.
You got something against
I
pronounced
love a big
eyebrows?
eyebrow. I'm always like, "Look at those eyebrows." I love it, but not his. His eyebrows are sufficiently frightening.
If I didn't trim them, my eyebrows would go up into my hairline,
They
so
would not. I don't believe it.
back in the main house, we see Vicky descending the stairs with a suitcase. Oh yeah, she's going to bang Frank and Bangor. We forgot about that,
Yeah,
but Liz is very supportive. At the old house, Matthew is still being a creep. Back at the main house, Vicky is about to head out, but she stops to kind of nag Liz for being a creepy old recluse. It was weird.
She talks with Liz about why she wants to get away, and she says that she does want to get to know Frank, but also to forget the stuff that has happened with the kidnapping and attempted murdering and other things, meaning her steamy kiss with her newly sworn enemy. She says she's feeling confused and wants some time alone. Uh, Not just to bang baby boy Garner and Bangor. Liz says, "Go to Bangor, cast her worries away, live, live, live," as Rosalind Russell would say. She goes on to say that she should forget about everything that has happened at this house and does it in a very funny way, reading the
Oh,
cue
I
card.
remember now. Yeah.
Reading the cue cards for a vacuum commercial or sort of way, like Bill Malloy's death, or like forget everything that's happened in this house, like Bill Malloy's death, Matthew, the cause of it, Matthew, whom we trusted, who was with us for so long. What's happened to him? Where can he be? It was pretty wild.
It was funny.
What did you say? You said something that was like
I don't
Macbethy or like not
I
not
don't
Macbethy.
I don't know.
You
I
say
I did
Shakespearean witchy or something.
I might have said that. I didn't write it anywhere
Oh,
though,
it's fine.
so it's fine. Liz is also wondering where David is, and Vicky offers to check the old house for him on the way out, and she leaves her suitcase in the entryway, planning to return with David.
And David is in the big house, or in the big house. He's in the big house
He
now.
ought to be.
He ought to be some kind of house. And he is alone with that scary man in the old house, and it just makes me so creeped out. I just don't like Matthew, and even
Well,
both creeps, I'm like, "He's just a baby creep. Why is he with this scary man?"
yes, the two creeps are chatting while Matthew eats his pilfered dinner, and David says that Matthew can probably stay at the old house for years with this setup they've got going, and Matthew laughs and also teases David with a secret about the old house, but he won't tell him until he's just about to leave.
And David says there's lots of secrets around Collinwood, and he knows them all. Back with Liz and Vicky, Liz is saying to focus on the future and Bangor and not the past. And Liz says that she's trying not to do that herself. Liz says she knows she's a hypocrite and Vicky tells her not to be mean to herself and that she has strength. Liz says she has had strength, but or Liz says if she had strength but cuts herself off, and she tells Vicky to call her if she wants to talk, and they are having a sweet mother and a strange daughter who was abandoned at an orphanage, then hired as a servant as an adult moment. Back at the old house, Matthew asks if the food David swiped would be noticed, and he says no, and they just sit and eat. He really is excited about keeping Matthew there as his pet murderer for years, and he could do it forever. Matthew is incredulous about it, but grateful for the food. Matthew alludes to his secret creepy room, and David says he knows everything about the old house, but Matthew is tickled that he doesn't know about the secret room. David wants him to tell him now, but he doesn't. David is mad that his pet murderer isn't doing what he wants, and he's pouting. And Matthew says he wishes he had some brandy. David says he could go smuggle some of that too.
They're interrupted by Vicky calling for David from outside, so they scramble to hide, but David isn't quick enough and she catches him. He pretends he was just looking for ghosts, and then David and Vicky exit. What was that thing on the floor we got a couple of pointed close-ups of? That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Back in the foyer, Liz calls Sheriff George to ask for updates on Matthew, but there aren't any. Vicky enters with David in tow, and Liz updates her on the status of the police search for Matthew while David grins creepily in the background. And David practically admits that he's hiding him somewhere.
Yeah.
Liz takes
Vicky
no.
doesn't feel safe with him on the lam, and David's just smugly flaunting it. And he's like, I don't think they'll find him. Maybe he has friends hiding him.
But no one takes notice of
No.
this. Liz does make him apologize to Vicky for running off and wasting her time searching for him. And at this point, Vicky is about to leave to catch her bus, but notices her wallet is missing. That was the thing on the floor that we
Yeah,
were like, what's
was
that?
the wallet.
So she has to head back to search for it, and Vicky descends the front steps to head towards the old house. And at this point, she has her headscarf tied securely to her head. We go back inside and see Liz leading David into the foyer for a lecture, and she scolds him, and he's still being cryptic but alluding to hiding Matthew, and goes on to say he doesn't know who he ought to be loyal to, and also nobody loves him. How fucking dramatic. Of course, with that personality, perhaps he is right. Vicky is looking for her wallet around the fence near the old house, and now her headscarf is gone. She doesn't find the wallet, and the score intensifies, so we check back in on David and Liz in the drawing room, where David is continuing his cryptic bullshit.
Yeah, they're talking about loyalty some more, and he's trying to understand loyalty and how to tell if someone's loyal. And Liz says you have to trust people that mean what they say and say what they do. And he asks if somebody who was loyal, would they hide something from someone? And Liz says no. And she says she hopes she's been helpful. And David says, yes, now I know how to trick Matthew into letting me see the secret room.
Yeah, Liz is basically trying to explain to him how to make friends, so
Yes.
we'll see how that goes. He does make a friend later, but we'll talk about that when it comes up. Vicky approaches the old house to check inside for her missing wallet, and the headscarf is still gone. In the old house, funnily, she's looking at the exact spot on the floor where her wallet was, so it's as if she knew that's where it was supposed to be, even though she only noticed it was missing back at the main house. But In place of her wallet on the floor, there are now very obvious footprints in the rug leading over to the bookshelf. And she's sort of taking note of that, being like, wonder what happened there. At which point, Matthew emerges from the shadows with her wallet and shoves it in her face. Dun
Yeah,
dun
it's super
dun!
scary. She looks scared and he looks scary and it's spooky. And that's all we
Incredible.
watched. But now the numbers are right for a while.
See, now I have to go look at the Google Calendar and see. Okay, the next one where we skip a number is 131. So,
We got a little ways to go.
in a few weeks, but I still have to fix all the calendar and everything. Well, we might as well wrap it up and follow us on Instagram at Ghosts Want You Dead.
Yes, please.
I don't have anything else to say. I did have something else to say to you, but I can't Oh, I was going to tell you about that podcast drama I was reading about on the internet. So I'll do that in a moment
Yeah.
after I stop recording. Okay, bye.
Okay. Okay, bye.